Welcome, everybody, to episode 6 of the Kai Paul podcast. I am so pleased to have Bob Murray. Bob, thanks for being on the show today.
It's great to be here.
Absolutely. So, episode 6, Bob, you are a coach. You have your master's in leadership. You've coached a lot of teams over the years. So, I'm so excited to talk about sports today.
Yeah, it's going to be a good time. Can't wait to make it happen.
Right off the bat, Bob, how many teams do you think you've coached over the years?
Oh, I think it's probably in the high 20s, probably about 28, 29 teams, might even be 30.
Wow.
I've been coaching since I was a teenager, actually. Coached some baseball when I was a kid, coached some t-ball. That was my first experience in coaching, was to coach t-ball baseball.
No way. How old would have you been at the time?
Yeah, I think I was probably 13, 14 years old because my brother was playing and they needed someone to kind of help out and coach. So the one dad was like, hey, would you be able to kind of hang out here and help us coach these guys? And I said, sure thing, and helped them out a little bit and coached baseball quite a bit growing up, and then moved into some other sports, including basketball.
That's so cool. So did you just fall in love with coaching then, or like?
Yeah, I think so. I think I've always been, as an athlete, I was always, a student of whatever game, right? Mm-hmm. And wanted to know the ins and outs of that game, how it happened, all the rules, everything around it. But then also the offensive and defensive schemes and those types of things have always intrigued me.
Okay.
I literally, I'll give you an example, volleyball. I played volleyball in grade 7.
Okay.
But I've coached college volleyball teams.
Wow.
Just because I really pay attention to, offense, defense, and all of that kind of stuff. And so, yeah, it was just a real passion for me right from the beginning.
Oh, wow. Well, Bob, I'm so excited to dive into this, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Tell me a little bit about you, because I know I just gave a brief introduction, but tell us a little bit more about who you are and what you're passionate about.
Yeah. As you said, Bob Murray, I've been basically a professional coach for almost my whole entire life. In the post-secondary world in particular, I've coached collegiate sport in basketball and volleyball and soccer. And that's kind of on the professional side. On the personal side, I'm married to Crystal. We have 8 beautiful kids, so we're a large family. 8 kids. Yeah, big family van. We got a nice little sticker on the side that says honk if one of them falls out. So, but yeah, that's us, and that's kind of where I'm from, what I do. I've been an athletic director. I've been a coach. I've served on boards, and I've been able to kind of see what kind of impact that a person can have through leadership, as well as trying to, I used to say when I was a younger leader, a younger coach, my job was to move people from here to there. And how quickly that is, how far that is all on that person. But that was my job as a coach, is to help them move from here to there.
That's amazing. Well, Bob, I never really had the opportunity to play sports growing up, because I grew up in third world countries for most of my life, because my parents were missionaries, so I was living abroad. And there was a few times I got to play on some sports teams for very brief moments, but it was always a desire of mine and a wish. And so I'm really excited to kind of unpack this with you today, because I have some questions that I've always wanted to know about coaching and teams and sports. And so something that I would just love to ask you right off the bat is, one thing that I really admired in sports, and when I would watch sports teams, and the few times I had the opportunity to be on a sports team, was the discipline. There's the training, there's the discipline, there's the suicide runs, and people are dying on the court.
Yeah.
And so how would you say you have seen, because you've coached multiple generations.
Yes.
So how would you say sports and discipline and routine, how would you say that has impacted young people's lives?
Yeah, I think definitely, in the 80s, early 90s, there was a lot of what you would say in sport discipline, whether it was to do with, lack of attention or lack of motivation or running the drill wrong or all those types of things, right? You saw discipline happen in practice, right? So it would be, like you said, okay, on the line, let's go. We're running 4 sets of lines, or they called them suicides at the time, right?
Maybe not appropriate anymore. But.
Not appropriate anymore, for sure. But that was kind of what, that was your way of demonstrating or having discipline, right? And saying, okay, so if you guys aren't going to be motivated by yourselves, we're going to find a way to motivate you, and that's going to be through physical stuff. So I think that was very common back then. And as an athlete back then and a young coach, I just thought that was what you did. Yeah. Right. But then as I started to grow older and as, the times changed a little bit, I started to see for myself personally that there was different ways to be able to look to motivate students, motivate athletes, to be able to get them to move to where they needed to move. There's no perfect solution, right? You could have some athletes that all it would take is just a confrontation or a verbal, and they snap to it and away they go. And others, it was different. One of my first college coaching experiences in basketball, I had one player, 5'11" guard, was really fast, moved the ball really well. But he was all about the show, right? He was all about everybody's eyes on me and all of that kind of stuff. And so I learned early on that, in order to get Mark motivated, I could call him out publicly and not demean him, but just call him out. Hey, we need better this, we need this. And, he'd snap right to, right? Because in his mind, he didn't want everybody else seeing that he was not participating and not doing what he could fully. The other side of that coin was a player, big guy. He was 6'7", big post player named Joel, big teddy bear.
Really?
Big teddy bear. Now you would expect at 6'7", probably 200 and some pounds, that he was that kind of aggressive kind of personality and would appreciate a coach that's like in your face, but that's not how he was. I needed to call that time out, bring him in, talk to him. Literally, there was a lot of times where I'd just hold his head, look at me, and we would just talk, and then I would just see it, right? Okay, I'm good. Let's go. Yeah. So it changed, right? And it changed for me, but I think it's also changed in the sports world, right? That just like the rest of culture, we're starting to see that, some of these things they're not appropriate anymore, right? And so you've seen a lot of coaches that people would call old school decide to kind of step away from whatever sport in coaching because they were that's their world. Like discipline was this way and it's not that way anymore. And so they couldn't find that way. They couldn't bridge that gap of being able to work with their athletes to be able to say, okay, I need to get you from here to there. How am I going to do that? And here's how I'm going to do it. Instead of it just being physical, it might have been building relationships. It might have been communication, whatever the case may be. They couldn't get themselves there. So they stepped away from the game.
Wow. Okay. That leads me to another question. Now I'm very curious to ask this is, I get what you're saying. It's kind of like the old school versus the new way, discipline, being harsh doesn't always work. But is there something to be said about kind of like, old grit, like, I'm gonna wear these guys out until they learn their lesson, like, because I just kind of brings in the military to me, it's all discipline, yes. It's all obedience, there's no questions, you get it done. And so I know probably because have you coached boys and girls?
Boys and girls, yeah.
Boys and girls, okay. Yeah. So how would you say the difference is there? Kind of like when it comes to the guys, is there sometimes, do you have to be hard? Do you feel like that sometimes is the way, or has that changed for you as well?
I definitely think that between the two genders, it's a different way, it's a different approach when it comes to discipline or motivation or the use of accountability. I think that on the guy's side, there's an expectation that that I'm going to be held accountable to whatever my actions are, whether or not I'm lazy on defense or I'm not showing up to practice or whatever it is. There's that feeling like I'm going to be held accountable to it. On the ladies' side, they just want to make sure that they're being supported, whatever that is, right? Whether or not it is discipline, their lack of motivation, that they're being supported to be able to get through whatever it is. I probably will tell a few stories. I was coaching a women's basketball team, a college basketball team out east, and we were down in Maine at a college tournament. Wow. And we were playing in this game, and we were having a really good first half. Wow. So I'm, go to talk to the team, goes to the locker room. I'm sitting with the coaches talking about, hey, you know what? Hopefully we can execute a second half like that first one. It was fantastic. It's going to be great. So let's just go in and just encourage the girls that they come out playing with the same kind of passion. So we walk in the door right into the locker room, and all 13 girls are crying.
What?
Yeah, all 13 girls are crying, and we're like, what's going on? Like, we're playing a really good game. Everything's great. What's going on? Well, found out that, a girl had received a message from her boyfriend that she wasn't going to have a boyfriend anymore. He broke up with her. And so
mid-game.
This is now part of my halftime speech of what am I going to do to get these girls?
All 13 girls
girls are crying. They're all supporting her. They're all, like that. And so what are we going to do, right? And I'm just like, I've never been here before. I've never had to experience this. I didn't have a daughter at the time.
Yeah.
So I just, let's refocus on the game at hand and we can deal with this afterwards type of attitude.
Yeah.
But again, that just demonstrates that, they don't want to be told you need to get it right. You need to do this. You need to do that. They want to hear I'm supporting you. We're going to get through this, but let's refocus and go this direction right now. So I think that, you definitely can see the differences in the genders. But to go back to the first part of your question, I still think that there's an opportunity to be able to have discipline and a little bit regimented practices, similar to what you said, like Army or that type of thing. But it doesn't necessarily have to be a physical punishment. I think that there's just ways to be able to get your team understanding that we're going to move together and here's how we're going to go. And if you're not on board, we're going to get you there, but we're going to do it by accountability. We're going to try to motivate you. We're going to do those types of things to get you to that spot. Maybe they choose to remove themselves from the situation. And it's not something that you're doing that makes them say, well, you're cut, right? It's I don't know if I can be at that level, that commitment level, that playing level. So I'm going to choose to look at some other thing. And that goes into a lot of different areas of like, well, do you cut players in high school and all that kind of stuff, right? But I think that there's just we're in a time now in sport where we can still choose to do things that involve discipline and regimented practices that gets them to the position that they can to be able to perform.
Wow. So Bob, you've been coaching for 30 plus years?
Yeah, well, it's probably almost 40 years now. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've seen multiple generations kind of grow up, move on. And so I'm curious, what would you say has been the primary characteristic that you have seen in players that you've coached that has led to a successful life post game?
Yeah. Well, I think sport brings out the best in people. Right? It can bring out the good and the bad, but I think it really does bring out the best. I mean, I think what we've seen from student athletes who have graduated from the game or graduated from your school and move on, that they've been able to have that real bounce back attitude. That's a big part of it, right? And so when you're, it's not surprising when you look at politics, when you look at businesses, that some of those leaders are former athletes, right? Because they've been able to be in a situation, a pressure cooker of some sort, failed, got back up, went back at it again, right? Or, something has happened that made them go, you know what, I'm not going to be able to do this. And then they've had to refocus and get going. I grew up with one of my buddies, a really good friend of mine from New Brunswick. His younger brother in grade 10 got cut from a basketball team. And everybody's heard the story about Michael Jordan being cut by his senior varsity coach and all that kind of stuff. But this was real life for this guy whose name was Michael as well. Grade 10 gets cut. And the way that it was cut was the coach came in and everybody was all lined up, calls out his 12 players, and looks at the rest and says, face it, you're not good enough.
Whoa.
That's what he says. Right?
That'll scar some people.
Oh, man.
For life.
Especially now, right? So then what does he do? He goes, okay, gets into that gym, starts working out, comes and hangs out with us guys, the college ball players, starts to get better. By grade 12, team captain, took his team to provincials, did all that kind of stuff, right? Wow. Took something bad, made something good, right? So I think that you see that a lot in athletes, that they've been able to use their life in sport to be able to just hone some of those skills, those leadership dynamics, as they've gone into whatever other part of life outside of sport, whether that's family, right? Raising their family, business, whatever it be.
So you'd say bounce back mentality.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. It's actually interesting because I was having lunch earlier today, and one of my employees, he asked me, he said, what was a failure that you had in your life that you would achieve to your success? And I was kind of like, whoa, that kind of came from nowhere. Right. And so I thought about it. This was just a few hours ago. And I thought about this video project that I had done right at the start of my career. I was like 19 or 20 years old, right. And it was $350, which at the time for me, I was like, wow, this is a big gig, you know? And so I did the project, turned out amazing. I gave it to them. I didn't sign a contract or anything. And then I called them, sent them my invoice, never got paid. They basically blacklisted me, never knew me. And I was like, frustrated. I'm a person of faith. So I was saying like, God, why would you let this happen to me? Sure. I poured days into this project, weeks, of editing and filming. But it's interesting because I could have let that been like, I'm done. If this is what, video is like, I don't want to be in this field. But instead I was like, no, I'm going to be better from this. I'm going to learn. I'm going to adapt. I'm going to figure out how to write a good contract. I'm going to learn how to do that. And actually that video about 8 years later led me to one of the biggest contracts of my life.
Right.
And so, but having that bounce back mentality and saying, even if it's not fair, I'm going to turn it around.
Yeah. You could have walked away and said that was it, right? Like, why am I going to deal with this? Why am I going to deal with that kind of pressure and those type of people, and just walked away from it? But yet your passion for it kept you there, right? And you've been able to demonstrate that you can get through that type of stuff and use it for the better good.
Yeah, absolutely. So another thing and this is what I was actually the question I was most excited about to ask you today, Bob. And so I haven't had the opportunity to play a lot of sports, but when I did play sports and as I grew up, especially through my teenage years, the guys that were usually the best players had the biggest egos.
Right. They
had the most amount of pride. And all the players, even myself, would look up to him. I was like, oh, he's so cool, Right. Or as the young kids would say, he's got so much aura,
Yeah.
Gen Z lingo. But anyways, right? Like the cool guys, right? And you're saying that's who you looked up to, and they'd have such an attitude. They'd be so prideful because they were good, right? And fast forward 10, 15 years later to where I'm at now, I look at all those guys, the guys that had the most pride, the guys that were the best players, but they all had, because not all the best players were prideful, but the prideful players that were good, most of their lives have gone nowhere. Or they've recessed, or lived below average life, or they've struggled with addictions. And it's interesting because in those moments, if you would have asked me, I would have said, oh, this player, he's going to go places. He's going to do things. But that's never what happened. And so I'm curious to see, for you as a coach who has coached hundreds of kids and college athletes, how would you say pride affects a person not only in the field, regardless of the sport, but also in their personal life?
The issue with it is that they generally, if it's somebody like that, that they're they've got a lot of pride, or some might say they're very cocky, they haven't developed those tools, those skills to be able to continue when the going gets tough. And so, for example, they might be a gifted athlete at 14 years old, right? Someone throws a ball to them, they can catch it, shoot it, do whatever with it, no problem. And so that their sense of who they are is in their athleticism, but then they've never been challenged to get better, right? And you see a lot of the big fish, little pond, right? So they're the big fish in that area, right? Because they were super athletic, or at 15 years old, they were 6'5". Well, great. Everybody can, at 15 years old, 6'5", we can throw the ball into you, or we can set you in volleyball and you're going to put it away. But then when you turn 17 and you're still 6'5", and everybody else around you is 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", don't do that, 6'7".
I can't believe you threw that in there.
I had to. I'm sure one of my boys will probably end up watching this. So, but now everybody else is caught up, And so their identity when they were younger is so in that I was the best. And they didn't have to work for it or any of those types of things. And so I think you get into a spot where as they get through and as they get older and the competition gets stiffer or there's more people of equal talent around, that's when we see the work ethic disappears. But the other side that you said about addiction too, you definitely see that, right? Because we as in sports and as athletes, we become addicted to it, right? We want to be the best. Right? Whether that's coaching or as an athlete, we want to be the best. And for some of us, we have work ethic and it allows us to be able to continue on. And we might not ever reach that the best, but we have longevity in it. Whereas others, they peak really early, and then when they're not able to perform at that level anymore, they seek other things to be able to satisfy that, right? And whether or not it's, like you said, they abuse something or those types of things. So I can definitely see that. But I think there's also a real good case for the fact that the majority of those people at the beginning, maybe not the cocky ones, but the confident ones who have been, have allowed themselves to recognize that they're not the best, but they can still have that presence to them. Those ones have been quite successful. Generally, right? Male and female, right? Yeah. They're able to step into those positions with confidence, based on whether or not it's been whatever sport they've played.
So Bob, I know there's going to be a lot of younger listeners that are going to be listening to this podcast because they know you. So since you just have a moment right now, if you could speak into their life on the difference between being cocky and confidence, what would you have to tell them?
I would say it's a fine line. It's a very fine line. And when someone that's been through it challenges you, hear that challenge. Listen, because there's a lot of people that have, rubbed that gray area and then gone the wrong way that you just talked about, right? And so I think that, just like heed to what they're saying, listen to what they're saying. Because they've experienced it, but also, ride that line, because if you choose to kind of drop from it, those competitive juices will kind of slowly dissipate, right? And so you want to keep that there, and it is difficult to that fine line between confidence and cockiness for sure. But also I think that, for the young athletes out there that might be listening or watching, I think recognize that, that this sport that you're in right now, that you're so excited about playing or that you're really talented in, will soon come to an end. And so where are you going to move those passions towards? Right? Whether again, like I said before, is it your family? Is it your work? Is it you want to give back to the game? Whatever it is, when are you going to start to turn, how are you going to turn that around, right? And be super passionate about those things, and have that same type of passion in that part of your life when the sport is done. Now, I'm a great person for a long-term athlete development model, which is a Canadian model in sport, which says you play sport for life, right? You play, like I still try to play, I have to get out and play basketball with my boys and do that kind of stuff. But you want to be playing as long as you can play. If it's pickleball and you're 73 years old, then get out and do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Do as much as you can to be able to continue to play and have fun and recreate and do all that kind of stuff. But be ready for that high level competitiveness in you. Move it to something else. And beyond that understanding, as you said, you're a person of faith. I'm a person of faith as well. I had a collegiate experience that made me really realize that there is something more than basketball. I had a game-winning free throw in the away team's gym. It was our conference rival. hit a game-winning free throw with no time left. One of the biggest sport moments of my life.
Yeah, everyone's hands going
right?
up.
Oh, yeah, everyone's hands going up. I've shared this story before with
big.
some, but yeah, like the other team is like the other team's crowd is cheering against me. They're yelling and screaming. I hit this free throw. I run around the gym. I go over my girlfriend at the time, pick her up, like all that kind of stuff, right? Like it was just a big moment, and then go into the shower after, and sat in that shower and cried for 10 minutes because I realized, is that it?
Yeah. Why did you cry, Bob?
Is that it? Well, I think in that moment I realized that there's more, and you know, for me, the more was my faith and my understanding and in my walk with my Savior. That was that for me, and I think I realized in that moment that I hadn't done this alone.
Wow.
And I think, like, you know, for those that know me, they know my family history and all of those types of things. But definitely in that moment, I realized that I hadn't done all of this alone, even though I think I probably, you know, in my early 20s was like, this was all me. I did it all, right? I'm the one that got in and shot those shots. I probably shot 300 free throws that week before that big one, right? It's all me. And then I realized, no, it's not all me, right? And beyond my understanding of my Savior, also I was, you know, I had that moment of like my coaches, my teammates, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That was the kind of that pivotal moment for me, definitely, for sure.
Wow, that's amazing. Something that I have the opportunity, much like you, to mentor and talk to a lot of young people. And there's this song, and it's the song that's actually for the last 5 minutes has just continually been going through my head. And it's a verse from a song. It says, all the cool kids peaked in high school.
Right.
And, you know, the problem is a lot of people believe that. And I have friends that are my age, you know, in their late 20s going into their 30s that are still talking about their high school games,
right.
and they're still talking about, you know, high school, and it's like where they peaked. It's like where that was life. That's
right.
where it ended, right?
Yeah.
And that's not my dream. That's not my vision for young people, right? It's like we want young people, we want them to grow up and to take what they've learned in high school, and that every decade of their life would become a better decade because of the lessons that they've learned, and that the peak would never come, that they would continue that pursuit, that ferociousness to become the best version of themselves. Would you agree with that?
I would 100% agree with it. I think, you know, we talked about it earlier. I think it's just, it's transferring that passion that you had for a sport into other areas. You know, my biggest accomplishment in life is not necessarily coaching teams and coaching at the national level, or coaching, you know, a provincial championship team, or playing on any of these teams. My biggest accomplishment is those 8 kids and my wife, right? Wow. That's, to me, is the biggest accomplishment in my life. And I'm 52 years old, and I would say I'm still going, right? I'm still going, right? Well, our youngest is only a few months old, right? But that, I'm not saying I'm still going because we're going to have 10 more kids.
Okay.
I'm saying I'm still going because I'm passionate about being that dad, about being that husband, and seeing what other big mountains we're going to climb together.
Absolutely.
And do those types of things together. I think those are the areas that, you know, as you said, if I was chatting with some kids about where to be, that would definitely be it. It's just keep climbing those mountains. Yeah.
Okay, Bob, I got a question. Got a question for you, because, you know, for a lot of people, they'll look at you and say, you got 8 kids, and that's like your achievement, that's your accomplishment. That's crazy, right? A lot of people would speak into that, but you have a family of 8. How would you say having a family of 8, having those children, has shaped who you are?
I would probably say that my family history has led to me being the dad and husband that I am. You know, my dad left when I was under 4 years old. And we were separated from my mom when I was 10 years old. We became children of the province, is what it was called back then. Moved in with foster homes, all of that kind of stuff. So I had a lot of male figures come in out of my life in my first 18 years, right? And so I think for me, all of that has led me to be the dad that I am and the husband that I am, right? And so I think it's led me to that. But then now having a big family has really brought out some of those areas in leadership that I had that I didn't think I did have, right? I didn't, because obviously I've been on boards, I've been president of boards, I've been coaching, head coaching, lots of different things. But there's some other leadership skills that you develop when it's a family thing. That's a lot different than being a sports world, right? Mm-hmm. And sure, we can make some correlations between the two worlds, but I think, when it's your flesh and blood, it's a big difference than when it's another person that happened to be on a team or something like that. And so I think it's brought out some of those areas in me, and definitely I would say probably on the compassion side a lot more.
Wow.
It's not so in coaching world and being the president of a board, things are very transactional, right? Whereas, in a family relationship, there's obviously some transactional things there, but it's filled with compassion as well.
Wow. So have you ever coached any of your kids?
I have.
You
yes.
have. Okay. Yeah. So how do you wear the dad cap and the coach cap? How does that work?
That's the age-old question. For me, like I would say I've had my successes and my failures in it, right? Mm-hmm. It's the part of it for a coach coaching one of their children is to resist the temptation to overcoach them, right? Because you don't want people to be like, oh, you're taking it easy on so and so because they're your kid, or that kind of stuff. So that's been really hard. But on the other side, I've had to have conversations with them on the ride home after to say, so this moment in practice, we're going to relive this moment for a minute. And that moment, you were talking to your dad. You weren't talking to your coach. And so you need to realize that, because you wouldn't speak that way if it was coach so-and-so. True. Right? You spoke that way because it was your dad, and you felt comfortable to speak that way because it's your dad. Yeah. And so we've had those kind of conversations, but I love it. I honestly do. I love being able to impact them in that world. I've got to give kudos to my wife though, because she's the one that then, when they come home and if they've got a problem with the team or they got a problem with coach, they're going to mom and talking about it instead of coming to dad to talk about it. So Crystal's just a rock, and she's able to kind of handle those conversations with the kids when they're not happy with coach, who happens to be their dad. Yeah.
That's a good answer. That's a good response. That's cool. So what would you say, in your life, I appreciate you diving in a little bit. I actually didn't know that, that you had grown up that way. So Bob, to be completely honest with you, I've had the opportunity over the last probably 10 years of my life to mentor and coach a lot of, especially younger guys, teenage guys, or young men. And some of my greatest regrets in life have been not being consistent with young men that I've mentored or I've been a part of their life. And, maybe it was like for a few months and I take them out once a week or stuff. And then sometimes life just got busy and I just kind of fell off. And you said, until you're 18, you had a lot of male figures in your life. And so how would you say having male figures in your life impacted you, and were they positive or negative?
I think it's probably a mixed bag, right? I would say the majority of the male figures in my life, in my like preteen and teen years that were positive, were coaches.
Wow.
Both male and female. Right. But mostly on the male side. Because for me in my teen years, sports was where, I could release life. Right. So I'd walk in through that gym door or walk onto that field and just let go of life and let go of what was going on for 2 hours. And so I think that I would definitely say some positive kind of male role models was through sport. On the negative side, like there were a lot of men who probably came into our lives. So I have a younger brother who came into our life that it wasn't motivated about being a part of our life. It was motivated because they wanted something to do with my mom, or they were trying to, gain access to something maybe from the government or something like that. There was other motivations as to why. Mm-hmm. And so, being who I was and how I grew up, I had a jaded kind of look at, like, why are you now a part of my life, right? And so asked those questions a lot and had lots of interesting conversations and those types of things. But I would say just, to try not rabbit trail too much, but one of the most impactful people in my life happened to be an RCMP officer.
No way.
And it was by happenstance in a way. When my brother and I were little, we were living in a little town just outside of a place called Sussex, New Brunswick, and I can remember. We don't know much. We can't remember much, but we do remember that the RCMP showed up to our house because our house was on fire. Whoa. And we were like, "What's going on?" And he came in, grabbed us two boys, took us to his.
You were in the house.
We were in the house, yeah.
Whoa.
And grabbed us two boys, took us and put us in his cruiser, and then later on we're at this foster parents' place, like these people just to stay with, and so confusing for kids that we were like I think probably 9 and 6, right? And so it was like, what are we doing? How is this going on? Fast forward, I was like 14, 15 years old, and I'm at this event, and this RCMP officer's talking about young juveniles and making sure juvenile males are paying attention and not going down the wrong road. Mm-hmm. And I look at this guy and I'm like, I know this guy. How do I know this guy?
Okay.
And so I go up afterwards and I'm like, thank you for your presentation, but I swear I know you. And he's like, I think I know you too. And so we started unpacking, and he was the police officer
that pulled you out.
That pulled us out.
Wow.
And then for a couple years, he was one of those, he just kept checking in on us, right?
Wow.
And it wasn't that necessarily he was like, I'm going to do this but he just was like, I need to check in on these boys. And that was kind of a really neat thing to be able to see someone in that type of leadership go beyond his duty to make sure that these two boys were doing okay.
Wow.
So to answer your question, yeah, positive, negative, I've had both in my time. But I definitely think that the positive ones were in places of leadership, whether it was coaching or RCMP officer.
Well, that's deep. Wow. Thanks for sharing, Bob.
Yeah, you bet.
I'm getting to know you more as well. So next question that I would like to just kind of trying to figure out where so many places we could go with this right now. Is there anything on your heart or something that you want to share?
Well, I just think that, I know our original topic was, how does sport bring out character, bring out, that understanding of who I am and how I'm going to be. And I think that for me, I've always saw leadership, not necessarily sport, but leadership, and as being an opportunity to be able to learn, and character leadership, servant leadership, those types of things. I think those have been very key to who I am. I think my family history and my family background has led me to be that kind of leader, seeing people in my life that were servant leaders. And I was like, well, that's how I need to be. Yeah. And, even in all of the positions I've held, being a director of athletics, I was the associate director of athletics at SAIT, right?
Okay.
Wow. We have 250 student athletes, head, 20 to 30 head coaches, assistant coaches, game day staff, all of that kind of stuff, over 200 different staff underneath of me. But the joy that I had at that job was to be able to just dig in during game day and help them out. Right. And then be like, Bob, you don't need to pick up that. No, I got it. Let's do this. Yeah. We're doing this together. So I think that those are some of the things that I think beyond sport, it's just, being able to be a servant leader is a big thing.
So what would you say, Bob, are a couple characteristics that you think make a good leader?
I would say the first one would be being genuine. Where does the motivation for your leadership come from? And a lot of people will, they love the title or they love the tag that can be put on them. But those people get sniffed out pretty quickly, in my opinion. So, be genuine in why you're doing it, and why you want to be in that position of leadership. So I think just being genuine. I think on top of that, beyond the service attitude that I just talked about, would be consistency. You shared it about, your impact into some teenagers' lives over the last little while. I think just you need to be consistent in your approach as a leader. Yeah. Because again, your team or the people that you're responsible for, they see that really quickly if you're not. And so I think that those are a couple of the areas to be genuine, be consistent.
So how would we now translate being genuine and being consistent to the field, to sports?
Yeah. Well, I think that I've always had that approach as a coach. I think the consistency side, I've coached many levels of sport. Like we talked about before, collegiately, in the post-secondary world, or I was the head coach for the Center for Performance for Canada Basketball in Alberta.
Wow.
I mean, these are top athletes. But then I've coached kids that could barely pick up a basketball, right? And so you have to be consistent in your delivery and how you are, and what kind of impact that you want to have. So I think that really demonstrates who it is that really wants to be a coach or really wants to be a mentor or a leader, is someone that can be that same way, whether or not it's an easy thing, right, or a really hard thing. The provincial basketball team that I coached in high school basketball, I wouldn't say I was a fantastic coach in that one. I was a great manager. They were athletic beyond belief, right? 12 players, 7 of them went on to play post-secondary. I didn't have to coach them much. I just managed them a little bit more. But yeah, so I think being able to tie in that, just be consistent, be the same coach, whether or not it's grassroots soccer to, post-secondary sport, being consistent in who you are, how you lead, how you communicate. Those would be the keys probably.
Yeah, that's powerful. So what would you say to someone that maybe was playing sports and they decided to stop for various reasons, or maybe someone that's been thinking about starting sports, whether that's, 72 and wanting to try out pickleball for the first time,
right,
or whether that's the 14-year-old in high school that's always been skinny and never felt good enough to play? What would you say to someone that is thinking about getting into sports or getting back into sports?
You got to try it.
I like it.
Yeah, you got to try it, right? I mean, I constantly get messages from either former high school athletes who are looking at post-secondary options, or junior high athletes who are looking for going to senior high or play on a club team. And what do you think? What do you think, coach? Go try it. Like, if you don't go and try it, then you're going to spend however much time going, well, I wish I would have. I wish I would have, right? And so go try it. Just see.
Yeah.
Right? Like and you can, like, especially for the younger ones, like I've had a club basketball player play with our club for the last 5 years. Every year I tell him to go try out for a city team, because you just got to go try.
And he hasn't yet.
And he's gone.
Oh,
he hasn't made it, okay, right? But he comes and he's part of our club, and we're thankful that he's part of our club. But he now can say, I tried. I wanted to be on that team. I tried to be on that team, and I'm going to try it again. I'm going to try it again. And eventually I might make that team, right? But I think that he isn't spending those evenings sitting outside or playing outside shooting hoops saying, oh, I wish I would have tried out for that team. He tried.
He did.
He tried,
Absolutely.
right? And so I think that that's what I would probably say to them is it's just to try it. And then for, the recreational athlete, same thing, right? Get out and try something. I had never played pickleball in my life until a couple summers ago. I love it, right? But try different things. I even people like, I love it when people go on hikes that have never gone on hikes before, right? Those types of things, just go and try different things and just so you can say, at least I tried it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, we covered a lot of ground, got to hear a little bit about your story, Bob.
Sure.
We got to hear, character through sports, what pride can do to affect a player. And I love that. I think the conclusion of this whole thing is just go try it. Never be scared of the unknown or maybe of getting back into something, and allow the people that have gone before you to shape and give you, experience and knowledge that they have before. That's awesome. Bob, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show. Really appreciate it, and looking forward to everyone that's going to get a chance to hear from your experience and your story, because it's a powerful one.
Thank you very much for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks, Bob.